Okay, hey everybody, welcome. We are going to give it a minute or so here to let some other people log on. We had a really full house in registration again. Happy that you're here. I'm here today. I'm Mike Morawski. I'm joined by my partner, Mike Angelo, and our guest, Kevin Cawley. We're going to be talking about cost segregation, how that'll help you maximize your real estate investment. So let's just give this another minute or so while people log on. I actually wish we had some music we could be playing right now, right? And
I actually
so,
had it in the background here, but I asked my owner friend, I said, can you turn the music off upstairs? And he's dead.
we I'll have to have Rain plug some in on the recording. So
There you go.
when we post the video.
Yeah.
There
Hey
you go.
everybody, welcome. Listen, let me just tell you that the chat is open. We'd love for you to throw your name and where you're calling in from into the chat here today, just so we know who's here. We're going to make this as interactive as possible as we go along and have people ask questions. If you have questions, put them in the chat. We'll get those questions answered for you as we go along. But I think this afternoon you're going to be in for some enlightened entertainment that will help you see how we do things in the multifamily and industrial space with cost segregation, how that benefits you as a private investor in those opportunities, and how you can utilize it yourself in any investment properties you might own. So why don't we go ahead and kick this thing off? I'm Mike Morawski. I am a 30-year real estate veteran from California. I specialize in the multifamily business. We do market rate multifamily apartment complexes. We're very market specific. We buy properties that are in, if you looked on a map on the Southeast from Dallas to Raleigh, and then across the Midwest from Tulsa, Oklahoma over to Tennessee. And we like those sectors of the country. We're actually monitoring about 40 submarkets right now, looking for some of the best deals coming to the market. And we're starting to see more and more flexibility in pricing from sellers. So Amar from Denver, good to see you. Glad that you're here. Anybody else want to check in, throw your name in the chat? I'm going to let Mike and Kevin introduce themselves, but Mike, why don't you jump in and tell people who you are and where you're from and what you do?
Absolutely, Mike. Excited to be here with you and Kevin again. Mike Angelo, we are Nimble Capital. I'm based here in Phoenix, Arizona. It's beautiful and sunny right now. I love this topic of taxes. We also do multifamily across the Southwest. So we're in New Mexico, Arizona, Texas, and Oklahoma. Mike and I have worked on a few deals together. I'm actually a passive investor with Mike's apartment deals as well. And we love real estate. We love multifamily. We love helping our investors grow their wealth and really giving back to the community as well. And one of the ways that we like to give back to our investors is this conversation we're about to have right now. So super excited. Kevin, take it away, man.
Sure.
Hey, before you do that, Kevin, I just want to chime in and say, Mike and I have known each other now for about 3 years. We met and started our relationship through a coaching relationship. Mike coached with me in my training program for a period of time, and then we wound up partnering on a couple of deals. So that's one thing I really like to do is partner with my coaching clients and the people that I work with, teaching them how to fish in the business. And Mike has blown it out from, having no units when we started coaching, trying to get a 46 unit close to, Mike, what do you have today? Like 700 units and a couple of industrial buildings?
Right up to about 700 on the multifamily side, value add, and some development work, about $100 million worth of development work we're in the middle of. So yeah, it's good stuff.
I love to say coaching works. I know it's helped me over the years. It's helped you. So it's awesome. But Kevin, go ahead.
Yeah. Kevin Cawley. I'm based in Downers Grove, Illinois. It's like 20 minutes outside of Chicago, Illinois. I've been doing cost segregation studies 8 years, very high volume. I work with anyone from someone brand new, maybe buying their first investment property, up to multiple billion-dollar funds. I also co-invest alongside many clients. Probably my largest stake is a ownership stake in Icarus Investment Group. We got 3,000 apartment units on Chicago South Side. So It's been fun. Real estate's great, and I'm happy to help out people maximize their investments through cost segregation, which we're going to go through today.
Kevin, I love that. You're the only guy on the call that invests in Illinois that I know of. So
We're looking outside, by the way, but hey.
yeah, I have to be somewhere where it's landlord friendly, right? So, hey, why don't we kick this thing off? Kevin, why don't you give a good explanation about what cost segregation is and how you can use it in your real estate investments?
Happy to. And then what I'm going to do is actually, before we go into what I'm doing, everyone on the call likely knows about straight line depreciation. That's what automatically happens when someone buys a property. So there's two ways to depreciate property: straight line depreciation, which, does that look good, guys? Do you need me to blow it up or anything?
No, that's perfect, actually.
Oh, straight line, or they call it the alternative method, which is accelerated depreciation. So what we're looking at here is just a basic example. What happens anytime any of us go and purchase an asset, right? The federal government, the IRS, says commercial assets depreciate over 39 years, residential assets over 27 and a half years. My example here is with a 39-year property, but either way, the math is the same. So I want to start here again. Many of you guys probably already know this, but I'd love to start here because it really shows, once we show you what I do, major difference here. So let's just say I bought a piece of property today for $1 million. All my accountant's going to do, all the IRS wants him to do, is take my purchase price, they'll minus any land value out of that. Typically, we see 10 to 20% land value. Land doesn't depreciate, so we got to minus it from our equation. So let's say we buy $1 million hard asset. All my accountant's going to do is take $1 million divided by 39. That equals 25,600. It's actually 25,641, but I just kept it round numbers. In depreciation, all that means is from year 1 to year 39, or let's say I sell year 20, I get to reduce my taxable income by 25,600 because of depreciation, right? Because when you buy a building, anytime it snows, the roof's getting weaker. Anytime it rains, the brick's getting weaker, but incrementally. So the government says, hey, we know you're going to have to do some repairs down the line. Let's kick in some depreciation for you. So that's what's happening automatically. Depreciation is calculated like a write-off, right? So it's 25,006. Let's say I'm in the highest federal bracket. What that means is I get to reduce my income tax liability by 9472 every year from year 1 to year 39. The reason my service exists is because how many people are going to own their properties 39 years or 27 and a half, right? The point of real estate, there are some legacy holders. I plan on being one, but it's usually get in, add some value, hold, let it appreciate, and either trade out or sell to make a nice buck. So what we're saying to a lot of investment owners, well, what's your plan with the property? If you don't plan on holding 39 years or 27 and a half for the multifamily guys, you don't get the full benefit of depreciation, right? So what we're saying is, why don't we front load some of that through cost segregation, and I'll go through what that is, so you get more of the depreciation benefit than you would otherwise. Does that make sense?
100%.
Yep.
Okay, cool. So what I wanted to do was actually go through a multifamily property that I completed last year for a client of mine. This one is in Chicago, but we're a nationwide firm. But just kind of walk you guys through it. I'll show you what he was doing initially, and then through cost segregation, what we were able to achieve. Is this big enough, or do you guys want me to blow that up?
Yeah, you might want to enlarge that a bit.
Yeah.
Even for me, I'm like,
It's gonna be, there we go.
that better?
Yeah, and you know what I would do now is I would close your slides on the side there. Can you
Over here?
no to the other side?
Over here, let's see. This enter full. How's that? And I
Yeah,
just
good.
there you go. There you go.
oh, we're learning. We're learning.
Technology.
Yeah, technology. So this is a real study I completed. Back to what I was showing you guys. Purchase price minus land, 1.755, right? Here's what the client was doing. It says total depreciation without analysis, straight line depreciation. Every 12-month calendar year, my client's depreciation expense was $63,821 over and over and over, right? So when I met him, he said, well, how does your service work? I worked up this analysis. I said, not every part, piece, and component in your property will last 27 and a half years. So what is cost segregation? We go through a building and we segregate, right, or separate every part, piece, and component that won't last 27 and a half years. And we put them on their correct depreciable schedules, 5-year, 7, or 15. Not every property has all three of these. Some have one of these heavily, some have none of these. And then they're not a good candidate for cost seg, and I could go into that too. But what happens was, the client's name was Joe. I said, Joe, here's what you're doing, right? Why don't we take, through our cost seg analysis, 20.3% of your property and put it in this 5-year category, and 0.4% of the property and put it in this 15-year category. And he said, yeah, how would that look? Right? So we said, here, if we did that, let me get out of the full screen mode. If we did that, instead of your write-off being $60,000 a year, your new write-off for this tax year, keep in mind it was tax year 2022, would be $355,078 year one. So we're going to front load 20% of his building's value year one in depreciation. So if it was a $60,000 normal benefit, 6, 12, 18, 24, 30, almost 6 years, he'd have to wait to get this depreciation benefit that we're going to roll into a ball, give it to him today. My client was in the highest federal tax bracket. So you multiply the depreciation expense by the tax rate. We reduced my client's income tax liability by $131,379. His fee for us to do so is $5,500. So this is meant to be a no-brainer decision. Is it worth paying $5,500 to offset $130 in income tax? I've never heard a no on that. But that's the basic mechanics. Really what I want to get across first was the idea of it. So it's not a complex idea. We're going to take some assets, put them on their correct schedules, front load depreciation. The work is highly technical. To complete this study took 6 weeks. So we're anywhere between 4 to 6 weeks. We have to visit the property, take photos, take some measurements. But that's the concept. We're just saying, hey, not everything in this property is going to last 27 and a half years for multifamily or 39 years for commercial. So let's go segregate the assets out that you can, kick in the time value of money. So money today is worth much more than money down the line. Skirt Uncle Sam a bit and put this money to work. Invest in more property, pay down debt, put towards principal, etc. Because we all know, left or right, you're a better steward with your money than the federal government. So we want to
100%.
keep more of your money in your pocket to do what you want with it, as opposed to, sending it in to a black hole, so to speak.
Kevin, is this legal?
It's absolutely, yes. Yes, so this came into tax law in 1997. I'll actually pull up my firm's brochure, which we could share. But we do talk greatly about this.
And as you do that, Kevin, I wanted to ask, I've had a few investors come to us and say, yeah, my CPA said he could do this. And we always advise to partner with an engineering firm like yourself. But can you give me a kind of high level of why you wouldn't necessarily want your CPA to do this?
Yes, so we get that often. My firm, and I think I have a slide in this here. Don't all CPAs already do this?
Yeah.
Yes. So the answer is they may do certain parts and pieces of this. We're literally taking a building apart on paper. They don't have the time to do it. So can a CPA say, hey, your parking lot shouldn't be 27 and a half years or 39, it should be 15? By all means, they could do that. It's a huge asset. There's no real specialty experience required. But what happens is we partner with a lot of firms that don't have the capacity to hire actual engineers and pay them $200,000 to $300,000 a year to literally take a building apart. And we're looking at very granular things in a property. So the big four firms, PricewaterhouseCoopers, Ernst & Young, Deloitte, they have the deep pockets to hire guys to do this all day. And so they do. They don't really, if you're not a client of theirs, they're not reaching out to you. So we found a big hole in the market of smaller CPA firms who don't have the pocketbooks that say, hey, we don't have the expertise to take this apart on paper, nor the time. And we partner with those CPAs. This is from my firm, and our firm is one of the most experienced firms, if not the. We've done 45,000 studies successfully in all 50 states. 80% of our entire business comes from CPAs who say, I don't have the bandwidth nor the specialty experience, nor do I want the liability if something comes back to us from the IRS. So we step in, we fill that void, and any study that we do is 100% guaranteed to pass any IRS scrutiny on any level.
Kevin, I have a question for you about that.
Sure.
So we closed on a property at the end of, call it 2021.
Okay.
And we closed on the property in December, had a cost segregation study done, filed our taxes, and now we're getting a little pushback from the IRS saying that we took too much depreciation for the time where we closed the property. How does the law stand up around that?
So what we would do is we'd step in. It doesn't matter if you bought the building today and I do the cost seg tomorrow and we get you a massive depreciation loss. It wouldn't matter at all. We'd step in and say, hey, we were actually at the property. We have photos, we have measurements. All of these components won't last as long as you're saying. In our report, which I'm going to pull up a full report now, that's why I hit stop share, substantiates that on your behalf. So really, if you did it, Mike, with a good firm, you shouldn't be involved whatsoever, just to be frank, and the firm should handle that for you. And I'll show you why. I'm going to pull up the actual final report.
And kind of to dig in on Mike's comment there, or question there is, as long as you were the owner of that building for that calendar year, it doesn't have to be the full calendar year necessarily. It could be even a day, as I understand it. Is that
absolutely? Yeah, that's 100% correct. There's no laws, there's no rules saying you have to own it a year before engaging. Also, a very common misconception is people think you have to do it the first year of ownership. It's not true. We could go back, as long as there's enough meat on the bones, which we'll find through our analysis, we could go back up to 15 years. But that's depending how large is the asset. To put it in perspective, if you get a $500,000 duplex, that's an investment property that you own 15 years, there might not be a lot of meat on the bone. If you have a $30 million hotel you've owned 15 years, let's run an analysis. There might be some meat on the bone there.
That's good. Good point.
So basically what I tell people, when in doubt, have me run the numbers. There's no cost to running the numbers whatsoever.
How does cost segregation work on new construction?
So new construction is really good. I work with dozens of developers. The building has to be in service. So, when I first started off doing this, guys would say, hey, I just bought this land. We're going to break ground next year. Can you run the numbers? And I would, but my firm said, no. We could run some prelim numbers. Everything has to be in service, right? So certificate of occupancy or ready for its intended use before you can actually use this. So what I do get a lot of, we call them two-phase studies, phase one, phase two. I have a lot of clients, hey, I just bought this multifamily building, 20 units for $3.5 million. We plan on ripping everything out and adding new stuff. That won't be ready till next year. Depending on their investors' needs for a tax deferral, which is what we create, we would suggest, hey, why don't we study the building today as is before you rip anything out? So that tax year, you'll get a benefit. Then next year, once we do the study, rip everything out, put it all in. Next year, we'll do a second study on the improvements that we're putting. as long as that was substantial. I also have clients that say, hey, I get a big loss carrying forward from a bad investment. So I don't really need to study the building up front. Why don't I trigger you when I put all the improvements in? And we'll do one study on the whole kit and caboodle. So there's a couple of ways to cut it. I don't push clients one way or another. It's basically, do you need the loss today? If so, let's cut it up in 2 phases. If you don't, by all means, let's wait till you're ready, or till your project's completely finished, so to speak.
Fantastic. Hey, I wanted to dig in real quick, unless Mike, you have another question, but that example that you did, it was 1.7 million, I think was the building cost. Is that the depreciable value that you, or not that was the building cost minus land, right? Or less land.
Yeah, less land. That was building costs, less land. I'll pull it up for you again.
Right. And so where I'm going with this is, Mike and I, we partner with investors to go buy a property. So I'm going to guess maybe that property was $2 million plus to buy it. And
Sure.
then I assume that that potential client put a loan on it, and they probably had to come up with a down payment. So, if it's 2 million, we had to put a down payment down of say 30%. $700,000 is probably what was required in equity. And just stop me if you know better numbers, but using this as an example, is that a fair round number, say?
It is. But here's what's nice. That counts towards your basis, right? So we want to look at the basis. So let's say my guy put down 20%, the rest he took debt. Well, his down payment plus the debt goes towards his basis. So my client's basis is 1.755. That's another great thing about real estate is you can leverage the debt, right? He didn't put that in, but he's getting the benefit.
Right.
This is his baby. And so that's a key component to real estate. I read, and it's been imprinted in me, 90% of the world's millionaires are made via real estate, and it's because of the leverage mechanisms.
Absolutely. And that's where I was going actually from the benefit standpoint, because you're showing a $350,000 potential shelter. And if I divided that into the amount of equity that was required in the deal, I'm well over 50%. Meaning if I had a few partners in the deal and they all put a few $100,000 together, they could shelter half of that in that calendar year, right? That's typically the mechanism?
Yeah. So, and then that triggered a bullet point in my head to say, is here this net benefit 131. That's literally going against dollar for dollar income tax liability. However, if me, you, and Mike are on the deal together, this benefit would get split up pro rata per our partnership agreement. So if it's 33.33 a piece, we split this in thirds.
Perfect.
But we also split the cost for doing so. We also split the down payment. So
right. Yep. But to your point, if it costs you 5,000 and you can save a few $100,000, it's kind of a no-brainer. But it's always good to just do the assessment. I've had some investors say, I have a small single-family investment property. May or may not make sense. It depends, right? If it's a $600,000 property, possibly. If it's a $200,000 property, probably not, right?
Yeah, but also, I'm glad you brought that up. My firm will go as low as $150,000 basis. Most firms start at $1 million.
Okay.
And why we do that? We want to serve the new guys because 5 years from then, the new guys are the big guys, right? 10 years from then, hey, I just bought this $20 million, whatever it is, right? And so we want to earn their loyalty up front. We treat all clients the same. You could be worth $1 billion, or you could be worth 100K. Everyone's treated the same. The work product's the same. We're happy to provide education and educate best we can to help others grow. Oftentimes what I do is introduce newer clients to my bigger clients. If they're local or if they're here, I say, let's just get a bite. And you could pick this guy's brain and see how he got to where he was, which is what guys are all trying to do is grow, right? If you're not growing, you're dying, so they say.
Right.
That's right. That's
Right.
right. Kevin, I wanted to ask a question around this current situation we're in. So the report you showed was 2022. I had a lot of investors come to us and say, I heard bonus depreciation is going away and it's being stepped down. Can you talk through that a little bit on where we are today in 24 and what it looks like in the future?
Sure. Yeah. So President Trump implemented the Tax Cuts Jobs Act in September 27th of 2017. What he did, I'm going to share my screen one more time. Screen. What he did prior to the Tax Cuts Jobs Act, anything put in a 5-year category would depreciate over 5 years. Anything in a 7-year category over 7, 15 over 15. You were still accelerating depreciation. But what Trump did is he said from anything purchased September 27th, 2017, to December 31st, 2022, it's eligible for 100% bonus depreciation. All that is, instead of waiting 5, 7, or 15 years to get the full benefit, we're going to roll in the ball and give it to you today. So he basically put cost segregation on the map, if you will. Not like it wasn't busy before, but not like this. What he did to ensure, whoever got in office could not cut that off was he developed a step down program. So buildings acquired in 2023 get 80% bonus. Anything acquired in 2024 gets 60% bonus, 2025, 40, and then it's back to normal cost seg. They're voting this month, the Senate's voting to have retroactively any building bought in 2023 up to tax year 2026, get 100% bonus again. Our firm, we do have guys to go with the House and Ways and Means committees. We feel very strongly they're going to approve it simply because Congress and the Senate is not made of paupers. These are very wealthy people who all have real estate in their portfolios. So fingers crossed, we're hopeful. We do believe it'll go through, but you never know, especially back to dealing with the federal government. You never know. But these bonus numbers, they go on acquisition date, not when you trigger the cost seg. So if my client bought in November 23, but in November 27 wanted to do a cost seg, he'd be set at 80% bonus if that bill does not pass. The bill passed. Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're saying now, though, that if they pass this bill this month, that you'll be able to go back and pick up that lost depreciation so like this year on a building we bought last year, we can only take 80%. But if they pass this bill, we'll be able to go back and recapture that lost 20%.
You get the 20%, but also it's not like if they pass the bill, you already got the 80%, right? Let's say they pass it and it's not like you get 20% like that. The 20% missing here, you would get over the next 4 years anyway. If they pass that bill, whatever time's gone on and whatever depreciation you collected, they'll do a little arithmetic. You'd get close to the full 20% back, depending on what you used in the time frame. We believe too that you wouldn't have to amend your tax return. There's a thing called a superseded 3115. It's a tax form we fill out that will add that back to your guys' investment. And then you probably get another K1 super small one or something, but it would be added back. Yes.
Nice.
That's super exciting, Kevin. And so you're saying they're voting on it this month. Does that mean it doesn't need to wait till it could pass this month?
They vote on it this month. You know how it goes. Does that mean it passes immediately, or they take 2 weeks, or they say, hey, it passed, but it's going to implement in September?
Yeah.
The ball's in their court. They kind of make things up as they go, it seems. So
right.
That's
we've
true
all been
too.
along long enough to know, like,
Well, I have to imagine
they could even say, yeah, you get it right away. It doesn't mean you get it right. You know what I mean? They could say whatever they want, and they kind of do whatever they want. So
I have to imagine, though, if they're going to pass it, because of what you said, that they own a lot of real estate too, that they're going to want to implement that at least before before next tax year. So,
yes. Yeah, I would assume so as well. It would make sense, right? But we all know they don't always do things that make sense. So
yeah. Hey, that's
my disclaimer.
Yeah. I have one last question. So you showed on that example where the building owner was actually going to save $131,000 on his personal income tax.
Yes.
Now, is that against active real estate holdings or passive real estate holdings? How does that work? Okay. And the second part to that is, how do you figure out what that savings is for the building owner?
So that would all go, so this was a one-off single investor. let's say my client owed 100 grand in income tax. Well, 100 comes out a year. He pays zero income tax for his tax year, 2022 at the time. The 31,379 carries forward to be used against next year's tax liability. What was the second part of your question, Mike?
How do you figure what the tax savings is for the investor?
So what would happen is your guys' tax advisors would use this number. Both of you, Mikes, we may be in a different federal tax bracket, right? What they do to calculate the K1s, whatever portion of this is mine gets multiplied by my tax rate, whatever is yours gets multiplied by your tax rate. And that's how they divvy it up. It's not, you know, if we're all in different tax brackets, it's not just, you know, getting split evenly. It's all based off your partnership agreement and where you stand as far as income. Another thing you brought up is if you're a qualified real estate professional for tax purposes, you might see this in literature. It says REPS in caps, real estate professional status. That doesn't mean you're a real estate broker or a lender or developer. What the government wants to know is that you spend 750 hours materially participating in the management of your properties. So drive time counts, right? So driving to the property, collecting the rent, shoveling the snow, cutting the grass. There's a lot of ways to qualify. If you have a wife who stay at home or a husband who stay at home and the wife works, you could easily say, hey, I do all this, you know, keep a log. I do all this. I'm a real estate pro. Now both are real estate pros. The reason I bring it up, my client's a real estate professional. He could use this loss against any income from anywhere. Meaning if he sold a bunch of Facebook stock and made a boatload, this number could go against his capital gains taxes as well. So any income from anywhere, including his wife's W-2, could offset. Now, if you're not a real estate pro, the losses generated can only go against the profits from the building you're studying. So it behooves many people to get qualified as a real estate pro as quick as possible. I would say 5% of my clients are non-real estate professionals, simply because if you have a good accountant, you want expenses and the rent to almost net out anyway.
Interesting.
Are close to. So
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's kind of getting into the weeds. But you know, I'm happy to answer any questions on the call or offline as they come in.
Got it. Well, listen, I don't have any more questions. And you know, does any of the audience have questions? Do you want to put that in the chat? If you do, Mike, do you have more questions?
I got a ton of questions, but I want to leave it open for the audience to ask. Just type it into the chat. Really good stuff here, Kevin, especially around. I know we went down a rabbit hole a little bit with the rep status, but
Sorry.
No, it's good because our investors ask us this as well. And so we always refer to them to talk to their tax specialist, right? But you know, providing a little bit of education, I think, is really important.
Yeah. I have a really good, I'll share with you guys, a FAQ, frequently asked question page. There's about 10 major questions we get all the time. The real estate professional status is the top 3. I get asked all the time. So
yeah,
absolutely. It doesn't look like anyone's got any questions necessarily. Mike, what do you have going? What are you thinking?
Yeah, I'm good. I think we call this a wrap today. And if anybody does want to reach out to Kevin, he put his information in the chat for you. If Mike and I can answer any questions for you in regards to some multifamily investing or some other industrial investing, or if you just have a question that you are working on a project yourself and want a little information that maybe we could give, don't hesitate to reach. Looks like we got a question here coming in at the end. What if rental income is lower than the accelerated depreciation? How does the excess depreciation help?
Sure. So the excess would carry forward. So we have some large groups we work with. They may have a $3 million loss carry forward, or if you're a smaller personal investor, maybe you have 50K of losses carrying forward. All we're going to do is turn that 50 into a bigger number. So you prolong the amount of time until you have to owe taxes. So some guys would say, hey, I'm going to wait till that 50 runs out, then call you. Some guys say, hey, screw it, do it today. And then I'll call you, you know, once that runs out. So to each their own, it depends on the individual's what they want to do. I never push anyone to do it or not do it. I just kind of say, hey, I'm going to create some chess pieces. You and your tax advisor decide when and how to play them, and I'm a phone call away.
Yeah, the big thing there is it doesn't expire, right? It stays with you until you use it.
Yes, depreciation has no expiration date. It's going to carry till it's lost. Or used, I should say.
Very good.
It's just kicking the can down the road. So
Yeah. Yeah. I was going to say, we had a handful of folks. If you're new, if you haven't invested before, if you're looking to invest, Mike and I can happily talk to you about some offerings we have, but also just provide education like experts like Kevin that can really help us boost the benefit, right? Not only do the properties provide a nice return, this is a bonus, right? In addition to that, to help you kind of manage your wealth. And then eventually we're going to sell this property. So, if you're getting cash flow for some of these properties, most of our properties will show a loss kind of coming out of the gate anyway, even though we're sending distributions out. But when we sell it, we're going to have a big capital event. And that's typically where that shelter comes in if you don't qualify for that rep status, right? But then you can apply it to this loss or this gain, I should say. So,
Yeah.
really good stuff.
good stuff, guys. Well, listen, I appreciate you guys. Thank you for being here. I know that Kevin, it's getting to be tax time and you're busier than I'll get out. So I appreciate you taking the time today to meet with Mike and I, and look forward to staying in touch and doing the next deal. So
Yeah, awesome. Thanks for having me, guys.
Thanks,
bye,
Cheers.
Mike. Good seeing you.
See you guys. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah.
You bet.